Story 1. You know who you are. One of you is at every single show. I used to tour with a band, and we had around 200 concerts a year. At least 200 times a year, someone would yell "Freebird" and laugh like they said something clever. I do not understand why it is funny, and hearing it every day for thousands of shows. Yes, still not at all funny. So, one day we tried to find out the deal. When the Freebird guy of the day yelled, we invited him on stage to answer a few questions. Why do you yell "Freebird"? Because it is funny. Why is that funny? Look of confusion and shame. Okay, so we did not get any answers, but we certainly came up with one. Nobody comes up with ridiculous ideas like a group of 20-somethings who spend 15 hours a day in a van together. The first thing we had to do was buy a sampler. This is a small piece of equipment that you can pre-program with any sounds you want and press buttons to trigger them. They are pretty expensive. The one we bought for the prank was $200. Side note, we were staying all 5 members to a single hotel room every night and eating nothing but dollar menu garbage and ramen because even if your band is doing well, you are still broke. I just want you to understand how ridiculous it was for us to spend $1,000 on this. As far as I am concerned, it was worth it 10 times over. The next thing we needed was a folding table with chairs for all of us, some teacups, and a newspaper or two. We would set these up next to the stage, and no one would even notice it was there. So we found a 16-minute-long version of Freebird and loaded it onto the sampler. The trap was set. Sure enough, someone yelled "Freebird" at the next show. This time, our lead singer acted really interested. "What is that you say? Freebird? Do you want to hear Freebird?" The audience cheers loudly. So, just to be clear, you want us to stop playing our set and instead play Freebird? They cheer again in approval, and now the Freebird guy clearly looks like he has never been so proud of anything he has ever done in his life. We all stepped to the center of the stage in a very serious-looking huddle. We made it a point to go comically long discussing Freebird, and sometimes we would just talk about movies we liked for a while or make fun of each other's sisters. When we felt like it had gone on long enough, and we were terrible about making jokes go way too long, we all nodded and made it clear that we had just agreed to play Freebird. All right, folks, you asked for it. You have got it. Here we go, Freebird. While the crowd went absolutely nuts, the singer went to the sampler and, like an old man fumbling to use a remote, he found the button and pressed it as anticlimactically as possible. Freebird begins to play, and we all put our instruments down and sit around the table. We sip on pretend tea and browse the newspaper quietly. At first, everyone thought it was hilarious, but after a few minutes, they started to revolt, chanting for us to come back and all. We would look at each other in a very confused manner and shrug it off a few times before the singer would finally go back to the mic. "What is going on? You do not want to listen to this anymore." "No." "You want us to play our stuff again?" "Yeah." "Well, what about that guy who yelled Freebird?" "That guy stinks." And then the booing would start for that poor Freebird guy. We did this for an entire tour, and it absolutely never got old. I would like to think that after that year, tens of thousands of people stopped yelling Freebird at every show they go to. At least for me, that makes the world a slightly better place. Update: a lot of people are confused about spending so much on a sampler when there are CD players and iPods. We were doing arena venues, and iPods were only like 2 years old at the time. You would not tell a sound crew to hook one of those up to $1 million system. They are the guys who can get some serious professional revenge if you upset them. Story 2. Over the years, my job has been pretty diverse. I enjoy all the master electrician and instrumentation work, but building and maintaining networks has been a joy as well. There are so many pretty blinking lights. All the testing and commissioning tools are fun to play with as well. There are also lasers. One thing that never gets old is seeing people's faces who do not know me that well when I rock up in high-visibility clothing to start messing around in network cabinets. Here I am, a slightly scruffy-looking older guy, glue and resin on work boots, knocking about in information technology. It is pretty funny and handy sometimes. Glue and I have not been on good terms since kindergarten. I do not know why. As an apprentice, I managed to get half a bottle of blue conduit glue in my hair, for goodness sake. Tom was a junior government system administrator, working at a regional information technology department. When the position of information technology manager became available at a Twin Student Government high school, Tom was encouraged, finessed/manipulated/persuaded to apply. See, Tom was a troublemaker. As a nuisance of the first order, in the 4 months that he had been there after transferring in, Tom had upset the whole government information technology team. You know, that person who has to comment on everything, thinks they know everything, thinks they are always the smartest in a room, but is actually only about 67% competent, and a bit lazy? This was Tom. The principal was so glad to have a government system administrator apply for the role that they changed the job title from supervisor to manager to entice him. The role had an office and 2 support staff. It was also arranged that Tom would be given more control over the school network than previous supervisors. I heard later that his then government information technology director may have suggested the title enhancement to the principal as part of the finesse. Tom had his own fiefdom. It also did not take him long to upset the principal either, as well as the admin staff and most of the teachers. I had done work with government information technology for some time before Tom showed up and knew everyone, though only got to know him peripherally. He had yet to rub me the wrong way. We had 2 big-ish jobs at the high school about a year after Tom started there. Change out a large number of key door locks for a brand new, standalone, network door access system we would install and maintain, and change out existing room lighting for energy-efficient LED panels. These 2 jobs would each be done during a 2-week term break, either side of a 10-week school term. I would get to run both jobs. In the planning phase of the door access network, Tom made it known that he would be trained on the new door system and be in charge of it, since it was a network in his school. The principal made it known whose school it was, and that Tom would stay right away from it, since it was standalone and had nothing to do with him. Tom was not happy about this. One Tuesday, a little over 5 weeks since the door system had been live, I was driving to a job when I got the phone call that kicked off this tale. High school called. They are having trouble with the new door system. Turning the car around, I was not sure what annoyed me more: that my sing-along with Blink 182 had just been interrupted, or that I would now miss out on scones fresh from the oven. At the system operator terminal PC in an admin office, I hear that there were 2 issues. Some teachers could not open some doors this morning, and some other doors that the admin staff tried to change functions on were not responding. I suspected the regular user teething issues. We were 5 weeks into the 10-week term at this stage. They went on to explain that they had looked and found the teacher's door access had been changed to remove some doors. They had re-added the doors and fixed that, but the doors they were trying to change functions on were not responding. Looking in the system on their user login, they were right. They had re-added these doors correctly for these teachers. But why was not the system updating the door changes? Logging in as the admin, I see that apart from the hub in this office, the other 18 network hubs are not responding. Weird. Unlocking the cabinet, I see that the fiber optic patch lead which connects to the other hubs is dangling in space. Very weird. These take some doing to unplug. They do not just fall out. Reconnecting the patch lead and rechecking the network, I see the other hubs are responding, so I push the door changes through. There are still questions though, so I open the system log. I see that the changes to the teacher's access were made by one of the admin users at 5:33 p.m., and the hubs went offline soon after. Strange, because the admin staff finished at 4:30 p.m. The log also showed that someone who is not admin staff entered this office at 5:08 p.m. Tom. I sat there and thought about asking the admin staff some questions, but decided against it. I suspected that Tom had insinuated himself here over the past couple of weeks to get the gist of how the door program worked and had gotten a user login to boot. If I kicked up a fuss, he might be able to information technology double-speak the teacher changes. Also, the patch lead being out could be waved away as incompetence on my part. As I was thinking, the admin staff said that Tom had been in earlier and had overheard the issues they were having. He had said something to the effect of, "That is what you get when you let electricians manage a network." Oh, okay. He was being upset about being banned from this system. My crystal ball went through a variety of scenarios, and I decided to let sleeping dogs lie for now. 3 days later, on Friday, I got another call about the high school's door system. Checking in and checking it out, I found that the issues they had were almost identical to the first, except that only 4 hubs were offline. After going to one of the affected hubs and plugging the patch lead back in, I opened the system log again, to find it empty. What in the world? The daily backup file had been deleted as well. Only my admin login could do these things, and how in the world did he get that? Checking that the secondary backup on an external drive was still intact. I dumped that into my laptop and had a swivel on the chair for a few minutes. Yes, this backup showed that the admin login had been used to do the teacher's changes this time and delete the system log, all after the admin staff had left yesterday. This operator console PC had been provided by Tom. It was one of the school assets. The government image was supposed to have been wiped, and a clean operating system put on, so it could not be connected to the government networks. Maybe Tom had a keylogger in there somewhere. I gave it a good Sparky go, but could not find anything. I even checked for cameras. After changing the admin password, I left and put on some Nick Cave in the car. That evening, while Mr. Cave and Daniels kept me company, I looked up keyloggers and then went through my boxes of spare parts toys. It was secret squirrel time. On Monday, I timed my arrival at the school just as the admin staff were leaving. I just wanted to check some things on the system. They left and left me to it. I placed one small camera under the desk to see the back of the PC tower, one on a shelf looking at the screen, and one on top of a corner cupboard to see the room. Happy with my work, I went home. That Thursday, same thing again. Different teachers affected and different hubs offline, but the same thing. Admin login used to wipe the logs and backup. I changed the admin password again for reasons. After coming back that afternoon to retrieve footage from the cameras, I figured out what he was doing. The first time, he used the user login to make changes, pulled the patch lead, then installed a keylogger device on the keyboard USB cable into the tower. It looked like a little black USB adapter thingy. He used this to get my admin login to wipe the system log and delete the backup, so there would be no evidence of his card accessing the room. What he was doing was a really stupid way to go about it. His ego must be a thing of wonder. The contempt he must have held for my abilities as just a Sparky to figure things out, even without the cameras, was boggling. I maintain systems and networks far more complex than this, like the school's security system, for example, or a similar door access system in a much more secure facility. Okay, sucker, game on. Over the next 4 weeks, Tom and I went through these dance steps 4 more times. I heard all about him suggesting that if he ran the system, a professional system administrator, there would not be issues like these. I did not mention to anyone about the logs or backups. I just kept collecting my video and secondary backups, because through my association with government information technology, I had learned a few things about their policies, and wanted to mess with Tom and maybe collect some more ammunition before I absolutely ruined him. Purposefully using keyloggers on a government asset is a big no-no. The next 2-week term break was here, and we began changing out light fittings. It was easy work, and I had a team of 8. Once I kicked them off, I went to work. I added a relay card to each of 6 specially selected security system expansion points in 6 different buildings. These buildings were where the people worked who disliked Tom the most. I had worked at the school long enough to know all about it. Relays are wonderful. Give me enough relays, timers, and contactors, and I can make your wildest electrical control dreams come true. A relay is a switch. That is all, like a light switch that you can turn on-off without being there. Here is a thing about data cables that not a lot of people know. Data cables connect the data socket in an office to a patch panel in a network rack. There are 8 wires inside, but they each have very specific jobs. 4 are commonly used to carry data traffic to, or 1 pair for upload, 2 for download, another pair for power to a power over Ethernet device, like a wireless access point. Say you figured out a way to get 1 specific pair of these 8 wires into, let us say, a relay. You could then maybe interrupt the upload wires, or download wires, or power wires. Any of these would cause issues for your computer's ability to communicate. If you could turn the relays on and off at opportune times for selected people, perhaps via a security system you had remote access to, You could maybe introduce weird intermittent faults in a network. If you could do this without it looking like the cables in a network cabinet patch panel had been touched, you might now have a method to cause grief without it being traceable through information technology magic. Sure, a competent information technology person would assume the cable was damaged and go test it. But what if when you went to test, it was all okay? It would maybe look like a network system issue that a competent system administrator should be able to diagnose and fix. A critical part of all this would be if you had a job as an electrician to make alterations to a building's lighting. You could then turn some power circuits off so that the network cabinet in a building was unpowered for a while. You could then take data cables out of patch panels without it being noticed by a system administrator. You could run a new length of data cable and terminate it into the patch panel and make a nice coupled join of the two cables in the ceiling, then split off some pairs to relays. This could be done over 2 days. You could then begin switching the principal's relay on the 3rd day of the 2-week student break. It would be pretty easy keeping track of Tom's whereabouts so you could make the cable appear okay for testing. Once the principal was good and upset at Tom for not being able to fix their issues, you could start switching the admin manager's relay. The next day, you could go to work on the head of English in another building, then the head of science in another. Having Tom out of his office and you having a legitimate reason to be in their lighting job would mean you could have a real good look around and find the USB keylogger. Standing in Tom's office, I took a picture of the keylogger among the mess on his desk. It might have been hidden in a drawer before that, and then I called my mate, Tom's old boss, the regional director of government information technology. I told him about the issues I had had with the door access system, the videos, the keylogger. He came down, took his own picture, and called the principal. On my laptop, in the principal's office, I showed them the videos of Tom's vandalism on the door system. The director examined the keylogger. It was so much worse than I thought. They found not only my system info on it, but info from the school accounting department, director's department, and more. Tom had so much incriminating evidence on it from all kinds of government departments that he was in serious trouble. When Tom answered the summons to the principal's office, I could not help smiling at him. I know that is mean, but I am only human sometimes. He had no answers to the questions. He tried to claim the keylogger was not his. The director shot that down. It had too much stuff from places Tom had access to. It could not be anyone else's. Then I showed him the videos. That look he gave me was priceless. He had figured out I had done this to him, and it was glorious. A simple electrician. Go away, Tom. He was not prosecuted because that would have caused too much of a public stink. But Tom got flagged and would never again be able to work in any government job anywhere in the country, not as a janitor or as a contractor doing government work. And since graduating university, he had only ever worked in government. Sorry, private industry, he is all yours now. I did say something foolish, though. After Tom left the principal's office that reveal day, the principal asked the director if they could send someone competent to look at the school's network issues. Without thinking, I said, "No, I will fix that. I blame having too much fun." After they had me explain what I had done because I needed Tom out of his office, I had to cross my heart promise not to do it again. The principal did not fully understand what I had done, but the director said I was like some evil MacGyver. I put the network cabling back in place and took all my toys home. Thank you for reading.